Chad Daybell in court, body language and behaviour. Now I'm going to start this episode. It's an unexpected episode. I was going to do another episode, but this is what we're going to deal with today, and then I'll do the other episode at another time. Chad Daybell, I'm halfway through his court appearance, his prelim hearing, and I'm absolutely disgusted that he hasn't been charged with murder. I'm offended. If I was related to any of the victims, Tammy Daybell, Charles Vallow, Tylee and JJ, I would take great objection to them being just called pieces of evidence, which is exactly what they're being called right now, because there have been no acknowledgement of these victims in the way that they should be acknowledged. And there's still no murder charges weeks after those bodies had been found in his backyard. But what I can take some solace in is that Chad Daybell looks like a deer caught in the headlights in court. He is absolutely looking as if he is just reached the bottom of the barrel. I mean, he looks bewildered. He looks like a deer caught in the headlights. He looks sad. He looks extremely uncomfortable. He looks embarrassed, humiliated, afraid. Sometimes he will frown. Sometimes he will give this very distant, far off stare, like he's kind of thinking to himself, I was on a beach in Hawaii months ago and now I'm here. It's clear that Chad Daybell does not want to be in court. And it's clear that he is very uncomfortable with this kind of attention. Sometimes he looks off into the distance with this kind of lost look in his eyes. Sometimes he looks very stoic. The only time that I see him looking somewhat more comfortable is when he's speaking to his attorney. Now, his attorney is a bulldog, and he is going to fight for Chad Daybell with everything he's got. Every time the something arises that is a little bit uncomfortable or makes Chad look very guilty, his attorney steps in and objects. So Chad Daybell's attorney is definitely going to fight for him as much as possible. But Chad Daybell, he looks so uncomfortable. He's not wearing a mask like Laurie does. So you can see his face very clearly. You can see his eyes, his mouth, his nose. This is a guy who was a covert personality who's now being exposed for what he really is. And it's very clear that he's not, he's not comfortable with being exposed for who he is. And I just want to talk a little bit about the court hearing. It's a bit annoying because sometimes the sound cuts out and sometimes there's an objection and things are paused. But it's basically going through what the investigators found on the day of the search on Chad's property. And it's going through how the bodies were found and the reaction of the defendant when the bodies were found, what he was doing, the inquiry about the missing children, the location of their bodies on Chad's property and what the location appeared to be like. So it's basically a prelim hearing about, presenting evidence ostensibly about what they found on Chad's property, who the victims are. But, it's interesting. After all this time, still no murder charges. And to me, it just is completely unacceptable that all this time has passed and still there's no real acknowledgement of the victims. It's like the victims don't matter. The victims' lives don't matter. And I find that very, very offensive. It's very obvious that Chad played a huge role in these murders. I've been talking to people. I've been reading people's messages. People have poured their heart out to me about this case. Lots of people agree with me, think that this man should have been charged with murder a long time ago. Some people are happy with the way things are. I'm not. I think it's been a very drawn out case. I think it's been delayed. I think it's been handled very badly. And I think the victims have almost been lost in all of this. Chad is obviously not very comfortable with being in the public eye. He's just not very comfortable. He's in a place where, he's in court and all eyes are on him, and he is being held accountable for something that he's done wrong. And you can clearly see, his face, and you can clearly see that he's like completely out of his depth. He's not on a beach in Hawaii anymore. He's not with his sweetheart. He is facing this battle alone, in a sense, because Laurie isn't there with him at the moment. And he just is completely out of his depth. He never thought that he was going to have to answer to anything. He thought he was going to be able to run away to Hawaii with a bag of cash and live his life out. And, that just goes to the narcissistic personality that he has. He thought that he was going to get away with it, and he thought he was above the law. And to an extent, he is getting away with it, because still no murder charges. I was speaking to somebody the other day and I said, I live in the United Kingdom. If the same scenario had happened in the United Kingdom, Chad would have been charged with murder or conspiracy to commit murder within 48 hours of those bodies being found in his backyard. And it must be that he has some kind of power where he is right now, where he comes from, the location that he's in. And I'm going to talk about some of the messages and the comments that some people have left me, and some of the conversations I've gotten involved with some people. There's one girl who tells me that she lives in Idaho and that she's appalled as I am that he hasn't been hit with murder charges. But that will come up in another discussion, because I intend to discuss this case within the next 2 weeks, just have an overall discussion about this case. Obviously, I want to see Laurie again, her hearing, see what that's going to be like before I can discuss everything and put everything all together. But it's clear that there's no religion involved in this in terms of righteousness. This case is very much about money, and the religious part of it was a fake facade, just like Chad has been wearing a fake facade for all this time. And you can see when you look at the images of him in court, the realization is kind of coming down that he's not above the law and he's not anything special, and that he is a criminal, or at least he is going to be treated as if he's a criminal by at least the public, even if he's going to be presumed innocent. There's no way of escaping the fact that those bodies were found in his backyard, and there's no one that I've spoken to that thinks he's innocent. That's a strange thing. No murder charges, but there's absolutely no one that I've spoken to about this case that believes that he's innocent. I've spoken to other people, even about the Watts case. Some people believe that Chris Watts isn't guilty. I'm not one of them. I believe Chris Watts is 100% guilty. But some people will have different opinions. I have not come across anyone with the opinion that Chad Daybell is not guilty. And still no murder charges, but he is being held accountable for something at least. And he just has this deer caught in the headlights looks about him, and that just gives me great satisfaction. The only time I see him looking any kind of in any kind of way that he seems comfortable is when he's speaking to his attorney, because that's the person that's defending him and speaking up for him. But he is, sometimes he will frown. His eyes will go down, his forehead will kind of scringe up. He'll have this very stoic look at times, and then sometimes he looks a little bit more comfortable, but then he goes back to looking very uncomfortable. And that makes me very happy that, he really is not enjoying this process. And I'm very happy about that, because I just think that he's a despicable character. So yes, that's my view on his body language, his behavior in court today, and the hearing today. He's very, very concerned about himself. He's worried about himself. And he hasn't got his sweetheart in Hawaii by his side, and he's not in a place where he can do whatever he likes. He is in a very confined space. He's in a very constricted circumstances, and he doesn't like it at all. And I'm very, very happy about that, because someone needs to be held accountable for this crime. And the bodies were found in his backyard, and there's no way that he didn't have anything to do with this. So he's as guilty as is. And he's looking very, very uncomfortable. It's like it's the dawn. The realization of everything is coming crashing down on him. His mission, his ideologies, his teachings, his doctrine, all of it is coming crashing down on his head. And you can see in his eyes that he looks very concerned about himself. He looks very worried about what's going to happen to him. But, like I said, not happy that murder charges haven't been filed against him. I don't understand it, but I will talk about that at another time. This was about the court hearing today, and I'm going to go back and watch it. So I just wanted to give you guys my opinion, and tell you that I have been reading your messages, and I have been trying to interact with you and reply to every single message that you give me, every single comment, as much as humanly possible. So I'll see you again soon.